Hi there, we're going to do the Rock Cycle Lab together. So a couple things. If you want to do it with me, you're more than welcome. You need permission to either use a hot plate or the burner on the stove like that. And you're welcome to do that. Some things you'll need, a sugar cube. You could do it with just sugar, that'd be okay. But I think it helps, the sugar cube is a little bit better, but the sugar should work fine. You just missed the first step. Tin foil is really helpful because you got to be able to peel it off. Even if you're going to use a stove, tin foil I think is the way to go. And maybe a tongs so you don't burn, or a hot pad so you don't burn your hands. All right, well, let's get started. So first things, if you're looking at the document, the Rock Cycle Lab document, it should look very similar to this. Okay, it tells you the materials you're going to need there. Now, the first page of the actual work shows you a really good picture of a sugar cube. Now, you're asked to examine it with a hand lens. Now, for our purposes, it really doesn't work very well on this camera, but I can try to show you. There it is, and you can kind of see the different grains, if the lighting was right. But I think ours does a really nice job. And the question is, how is this like a sedimentary rock? Bunch of pieces cemented together, I wonder. So, there it is. There's our sugar cube. You're supposed to sketch it, and you can just use the sketch next to it, which is just fine. All right, and then you're on page, once you finish page 46, on the next page, you're asked to crush it into a powder. So I'm taking a rock, and I'm crushing the rock with the bigger rock. Oh yeah. All right, I've crushed it now into a semi-powder. And then it wants to know what part of the rock cycle does this represent. We take a rock and we break it into pieces. Another name for those pieces is sediments. Okay, so now I've taken a rock and I've broken it into pieces. And I know you've sketched that. This is what it looks like. You get a whole bunch of this stuff right here. Yeah, there it is. All right. Now, I'm going to, and then it says, on the next page, it says they want you to make a foil boat. I did one ahead of time. Basically, I just had some edges so that it'll hold in the material. I'm going to go ahead and move this sediment. What's the name for it in the rock cycle? I'm going to move all that sediment and put it right down in the bottom of that tinfoil boat. Okay. Now, what part of the rock cycle does that represent when we move sediment from one place to the next? All right. Now, you're asked to carefully put the boat on the burner, okay? Now, we're going to do that. I have a hot plate right here, so I need to switch out my materials real quick, if you don't mind. Slide this stuff over here, and here we are. I've got my handy-dandy hot plate. I'm going to put my foil boat on there. Now, I am going to start melting this material. Think about planet Earth. Where does that take place? All right. So, on page 50 of your document, you're going to use the tongs, and I'm going to move this sediment around in here. So, what I'm trying to do is have it so that it doesn't burn. Okay? The slower you melt your sediment, the better off it's going to be, okay? So the directions say we're gonna keep moving this sediment around in here, and in just a minute I'll show you it's starting to look like it's starting to change. You can see it in there. And we'll just keep it on there. It's kind of fun when you put on these hot plates, it wiggles. Remember, you get rising hot air off of here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and keep moving this stuff around. And the directions say you're gonna put it on there, and you're going to start to melt the sugar for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then you're asked to take it off the burner. So, all right, we'll stop it halfway. It is now off the burner. So the question is, it's not melted all the way, but it's melted most of the way. You can still see some chunks of sugar along the edge. You can still see some of the old rock, but it's definitely been changed somewhat. What part of the rock cycle does that represent? Good question, Mr. Lowey. What part of the rock cycle does that represent? Now, I'm going to melt my sugar the rest of the way. So we melted it halfway. And when we can get it all melted, I'm going to take it off and turn the burner off. So deep inside of Earth, all that heat and pressure causes heat as well. And we'll get it all melted up, and then I will show you what we got going on here. All right, that will do it, I think. We're melted all the way. Turn my burner off. Move the burner. All right. So all that melted sugar now looks like this. Oh, still solidifying, so we got to let it harden a little more. That word solidification might come in handy here. So we'll keep this stuff moving around in here. And let it harden and cool. All right. So let's check back on our document. So we melted it part way. What part of the rock cycle does that represent? And now I've gone ahead and melted it all of the way. So really, you got to keep filling this out as we go through here. Once it's melted all the way, you can sketch what that looks like. Here it is right here. You'll notice it's kind of hardened. Ooh, it almost looks glassy, doesn't it? Okay. And it's melted most of the way. So you've sketched that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pull this off of here. Let me pull this out of there so you can see it. I'll set it up on the books again. So we took our sugar, we crushed it into a powder, okay, or into sediments. Then those sediments were pushed deep under earth. They started to melt part way. We took it off. It still had some of the sugar left. But since that time, we melted it all of the way, and it came out as lava, sort of, and it hardened into a rock. Now check this out. This is pretty fun. I can go ahead, and if I'm really careful, I can pull off my rock, and there it is, volcanic glass. Remember obsidian? Yeah, that looks just like it. So now we took our rock, our sugar cube, we crushed it into a powder or sediment. Those sediments were transported somewhere and dumped off. Then they were forced under earth and heated. Those sediments became partially melted. What kind of rock was that? And then it melted all the way into a delicious, as long as you didn't get it too brown, as long as it's lightly brown. Tastes like caramel. Yum. Most rock doesn't taste like caramel. All right, that is the Sugar Cube Lab. Fill that out, and we'll go through it all later. Bye-bye.